What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we are back and we've got the first round from day 2 of the Schaumburg, Chicago, Illinois, Adepticon, call it what you will, Vault Tour. On the left, we've got the Spirit That Detects Plotting, a Dis Sanctum Shadows deck, and on the right, we've got Zuka Kip Hollow Irestorm, a Dis Logos Untamed deck, and it looks like Spirit started off, I'm going to call him Spirit because why not, started off just playing a bit of the old Snudge, which when you fight or reap returns an artifact or flank creature to your opponent's hand, but not to be outdone, Holly, that's what I'm calling her, starts off straight away with a Dust Pixie, which gets her a couple of Ember. Plays a Perilous Wild and something else that gives her Ember bonus, but essentially doesn't really do very much, and not a huge board position turn, but ends a turn with with 4 Ember. What is very interesting, Holly here not playing Shadows. We've actually got a deck that doesn't play Shadows that we get to watch. That doesn't happen often, ladies and gentlemen. That doesn't happen often. The thing is, Untamed are quite famous for having crazy Ember generation, so I'm willing to bet that's what Holly's deck will probably end up doing here. She does have Key Charge and Chota Hazri. She's got 2 Dust Pixie, so she's certainly got some options here. So, Spirit here, he's detecting some plotting something of his own right now. Looks like we've gone for a Shadows turn here, and it's an Umbra. It's got Skirmish, which means when you fight, you don't get damage back. And when you fight, you steal an Ember. That's quite nice. Oh, and straight away, Gateway to Dis. You have to take 3 chains to do so, which is less than ideal. But you gain 3 chains for doing so. And then puts down an Ember Imp, which means your opponent can only play 2 cards during their turn. They can use as many cards as they like, but they cannot play more than 2, and he's got nothing down. Oh, and straight away, there's the counter. He's got Fear, forces your opponent to pick up one of their creatures, and then we see a Poltergeist coming down. Use an artifact controlled by your opponent as if it were yours and destroy it. Ah, never mind. Does get you an Ember bonus, though. And then, hey, it's Snudge, he's back. Speaking of back, Ember Imp is back. And Control the Weak. So Holly is going to be able to choose the house that Spirit has to go next turn. Looks like she's chosen Sanctum. And was that his entire turn? Did he just discard a couple of Sanctum cards, build up his hand and go, yeah, fine, that's it, that was my Sanctum turn? I think it might have been. And it looked like he just had 2 copies of Inspiration, which lets you ready and use a friendly creature. And then that's it. That was a bit sad. Now, we do see an interdimensional graft coming down here, which means that if your opponent forges a key next turn, they've got to give you their remaining Ember. Oh, and there's a library access. Every time you play a card, you draw a card. Library access has become a fairly controversial card, shall we say. Although it doesn't appear to have done too much for Holly there. That was not some giant look-at-me-go turn. So we do see Snudge taking out the Ember Imp, which is very important. And also, yeah, so just board clearing there. You get to return an artifact or flank creature to your opponent's hand, which he did. Puts down his own Ember Imp, and I can't see it, but it must be a charrette because it's captured 3 Ember. Kind of like old Bruno in Shadows. And then we see a Mind Barb, gets you an Ember bonus, forces your opponent to discard a random card from their hand. Research Smoko, it's not the worst one ever. If you're going to discard a card from your hand, that isn't one of the power cards in Holly's deck, so it's alright. You'd rather not discard it, but you know, it's not the end of the world. Just hope she wasn't planning on going Logos next turn. So we've still got no keys. We're not even that close, to be honest with you. Spirit's got 2. Holly's got 3. Ooh, Ancient Bear, Chota Hazri, down come the Untamed creatures. Of course, Chota Hazri can let you mid-game forge, but unfortunately, not really an option. She doesn't have enough Ember, ladies and gentlemen. There ain't enough Ember there. Okay, so after all that, kind of a quiet turn. I thought, you know, this is it. This is the big Untamed turn where all the creatures come down and the Ember generation goes nuts. And she's like, no, Ancient Bear, Chota Hazri, go. So we've got a slow start to this game. We've not got a huge board presence from either player. We haven't got a huge amount of Ember from either player. Certainly, next turn, Holly could put herself in a good position by taking down that charrette. And we actually see a Shadow South coming down to protect the Ember Imp. Of course, she couldn't play more than 2 cards on the previous turn because of Ember Imp. And just playing that Shadow South there, it will take the damage for Ember Imp. So just trying to get a little bit of protection going. Trying to make sure that it's going to stick around. And I want to say that was an Urchin stealing an Ember. I'm trying to get really good at identifying the cards from not perfectly clear pictures from a little bit of a distance. And I think I'm actually getting all right at it. I'll probably perfect it just in time for Age of Ascension to release, and there to be 200 new cards. Collar of Subordination. Oh, I like that, ladies and gentlemen. It's an upgrade that, weirdly enough, not the only time we're going to see that on day 2 of the stream. It basically lets you control one of your opponent's creatures. So she takes a Shadow South here, and now... well, the problem is she can't actually take anything down. So, looks like that was just a fear coming down? I think it was a fear. Either way, it got the Collar of Subordination off. It got the Shadow South back. And that's what's important here. That's what's important. So we just see a bunch of other discards coming down now, and we see how important it is to get rid of those Ember Imp. Because had Ember Imp still been on the field, this turn would not be looking as good. But Ember Imp is gone, and that means that Spirit can go, right, we good. Now it looks like he's actually ending his turn with 5 Ember. That's not enough. He's not going to be reaping next turn. And the good news is that even though that Collar of Subordination ultimately failed fairly quickly, that Ember Imp is no longer getting the protection it should be getting from Shadow Self, which means that Holly can potentially take it down. So there goes a Mind Barb, get an Ember, and now if she can actually take out, 3 Fates, would discard. In fact, the Ember bonus alone is worth getting rid of it. Oh, but she's not able to take out Ember Imp, so that's it. She can play the Mind Barb, but she can't do very much else. She can't take out the Ember Imp, and that's huge. The other option was trying to take out Charrette to put yourself up to 6 Ember. Now, the Shadow South is back down here, and it looks like we're going to get some reaping going on. Oh, that was beautiful. So one of the creatures we've got there is actually Selwyn the Fence. When you fight or reap, you move an Ember from one of your cards to your Ember pool. So now that Charrette doesn't have 3 Ember on, it has 2. And one of those Embers actually gone to Spirit's pool. So that means that even if Holly takes out that Charrette and gets her Ember back, she's not actually getting her Ember back. She's getting 2 of her Ember back, because 2 of that Ember is gone now. And it ain't coming... one of those Embers, sorry, is gone and it ain't coming back. Oh, here we go. Using Nexus to do just a tiny bit of damage there. Sorry, Carlo Phantom. There's no Nexus in his deck. Scott Skirmish still didn't take any back, just to bring Chota Hazri into Relentless Whispers territory so that can steal the Ember. And now, this is what we've been waiting. We had a slow start to the game, but now Spirit is doing what we've been waiting for Spirit to do. Oh, chooses to discard the Poison Wave. Doesn't want to do 2 damage to his creatures and his opponents. But look at his Ember now. He's got a lot of Ember. And Holly doesn't have many of these cards that we see, like Too Much to Protect, Effervescent Principle, Bait and Switch. She's not got those cards, which means that when her opponent rushes Ember like he's doing, she's going to have a much, much more difficult time stopping him. And honestly, I think Spirit might be putting himself in an almost unassailable lead here. We've got a situation in the game at the moment where if you don't have an emergency don't forge card, your opponent can sometimes rush Ember and just win. And these cards we see like Too Much to Protect, they're just not in Holly's deck. Now, she has got a Cooperative Hunting, deal 1 damage for each friendly creature in play, which is nice. But now we see Gaz forging a key. And not only is he forging a key, he's only 1 Ember away from forging a second key. And I'm looking at Holly's deck list here, and I don't really know what she's got. Interdimensional Graft is great because it forces your opponent to give you the rest of their Ember when they forge, just to stop them doing exactly what Gaz is doing. But we've already seen her Interdimensional Graft hit her discard pile. She's not playing Shadows and all of that stealing. She's not got Effervescent Principle in her deck. So it looks like Gaz is going to be able to quite casually go up 2 keys. Sorry, Spirit. Old round. Looks like Spirit is just going to casually be able to go up 2 keys to 0. Because Holly ain't forging next turn. Now, technically speaking, she does play a key charge. And she has Chota Hazri, although we've seen that hit the discard. So she does have 2 different options. But she needs a lot more Ember to do it. Incidentally, we saw Control the Weak coming down from Spirit there, meaning that he does get to designate what Holly's active house will be next turn. We have not, unless they put something down on the field here to tell us, we have no way of knowing. Now, looks like Charette. Yeah, it looks like we just got some reaping going on here. And I like the strategy from Gaz here. Not from Gaz, sorry, that was in the last round. I don't know their names, I'm giving them names based on their deck lists. It looks like Spirit's in a really good position here. He's forged a key, he's got enough to forge next turn, and in theory he should be able... Oh my goodness, that's a turn! Because Ember Imp is still down, and I'm pretty sure the game's over at this stage. With Ember Imp down, locking Holly out of the game and doing a really gosh darn good job of it, he's already forged 2 keys, and all he needs to do is get himself a few more Ember. And what we're seeing here is why it is so important to have these emergency stop your opponent forging cards. And we're almost at the stage in the game now where if you don't have those cards, you are in a lot of trouble. Because games like this will happen. Now, Ancient Bear's going down. Remember, the Snudge returns a flank creature. Now we've got some reaping going on. We've got 2 keys from Spirit here. And I don't see... And remember, Ember Imp is still out. Still on the field. And I just don't see what Holly's going to do here. He's actually gotten rid of all of her creatures, which just takes away the options. He did have to give her the Ember back because he had to use Charette, but it doesn't matter. I mean, look at this side of the board. Do you really think Spirit is terribly upset that he just lost his Charette? I'm willing to bet he's not. Okay, so Wild Wormhole comes down. Gets another Wild Wormhole. Lets you play the top card of your deck. And I don't. Now he's pointing out the Ember Imp here. I believe Wild Wormhole would circumvent Ember Imp because you're not really playing it. You're playing it as a result of the card. So I believe she's only actually played Wild Worm. I could be wrong about this, but I believe it basically says she's only actually played 1 card. Because she played Wild Wormhole, which played Wild Wormhole, which played the last card. Just like how on the first turn of the game, you're only allowed to play 1 card. But if you play a Wild Wormhole, that actually and this is definitely right, that circumvents the rule. But it's all in vain, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing Holly can do. If you don't play these emergency stop your opponent forging cards, games like this will happen. It was a slow start. We didn't see much for the first few turns. But then as soon as Spirit started getting some Ember on the field, there was just nothing Holly could do to slow him down. And that's a little bit sad. Congratulations to Spirit, or whatever his name actually is. Commiserations to Holly, or whatever her name actually is. And thank you, lovely ladies and gentlemen, for watching. You can, of course, discuss this game in the comment section. Go nuts, but please remember to be nice. And then I would politely ask that you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter @TheWossy, where we talk about games like Keyforge. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.